Johnny.
Hey, Kurt.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Hey, did you see the latest thing? What happened last week?
Which thing?
There's a lot of things, right?
I know, there's so much.
About pyramids, stuff
Oh,
under a
yes.
pyramid, and all this
Very
other stuff.
exciting.
How do we start this video? What do we want to talk about?
With the pyramids.
Okay. So we did a video called Cognitive Dissonance
Yes.
last time, and this is going to be a series of videos that we're going to do. We're going to title this one Connecting Dots. We're going to connect a bunch of dots because around the pyramids, which there's a whole group of people that talk about them nowadays, and all over the world they find these pyramids now. And a guy named Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, another guy named Billy Carson, all these guys have YouTube channels and they talk about it. There's another guy, one of my favorites, the Land of Chem guy, and he's got this stuff down, man. So anyway, everyone's talking about what's underneath the pyramid and it's a big deal. And then, well, I don't know. Let's take a look at it. So
Yeah.
People are amazed that all over the world there's these different similar gods being worshipped that do similar things, and a group of 8 people keep showing up and teaching their knowledge, and this may all be written down somewhere, right? It's already said. So
Absolutely.
So we want to connect some dots as to why that would occur, and then a really good place to go to talk about it, if we need biblical references and not so biblical references, we're going to bring up some books here. So
Yeah, we've always promoted Jubilees and Enoch and even Jasher. So when you look at really the written record of things, it gets very interesting because regardless of what topic you're interested in, whether it's ancient Egypt or history or even the giants, like that's all referenced in these books. So it's not like some crazy idea. It's actually been written about.
And there's a lot of people out here that don't accept these books, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I maintain that Genesis is a 30,000-foot view overview, and it doesn't give you enough detail.
Yes.
And then if you, at one point, and it's still there in the Ethiopian Bible, which is, there's 2 orthodoxies of Scripture. There's the Eastern and the Western. The Western is the Catholic Church. The Eastern is the Ethiopian Church. Yeah. The Ethiopian Bible still has these books in it. So
yes. Which I think is super encouraging that it's valid. Right. Like it's been around a long time, but that if it's in a Bible or if you need that if you need the validation of having it in a Bible, that you have that record in the Ethiopian Bible of all these extra books. So whether it's Tobit or, I mean, there's so many little books I had never read until 2 years ago. And it's all encouraging. It's all, hey, keep the commandments, be righteous, God is real. It's fantastic.
One God, worship one God.
Yeah, just one. But we do have the reference of why there are others. And I think that is super encouraging. So if you know in Jubilees, it tells you, and even in Genesis, that it's the supreme God who made these other gods, and their purpose is to be entities over the other nations. And then you have that at Babel where everyone is split up. And I really think the whole reason they made the tower was those entities, right? They want to be the supreme God. Oh, let's get all these people to work together. Let's take over that supreme God role. We want to do it. So it makes a whole nother plot line.
And this whole discussion, not that I'm complete conspiracy theorists. Some of them are fun, but there's also an instruction in the scriptures to not follow for conspiracy theories. So
Yeah.
okay, I'll go with that. There's a reason why it's written down, because it's a huge distraction, right?
It
Could
is huge.
fall down rabbit holes, but I got involved in a Torah group early on, and they were doing the Torah portion.
Mhm.
And they got to Genesis 11, where you can find the Tower of Babel, and they skipped over it. Like, what are we doing? What? And I had just read about the Tower of Babel, and then I'm like, when he and the guy who was running the show said, well, if you want to talk about it privately, we can do that. But I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about it privately. That's Genesis chapter 11 is the Tower of Babel, and we can read this, but this is gonna drive home the idea that this is a 30,000-foot view of what happened here. The others give you that in-depth thing. So, you want to read it, or you want me to read it?
Okay, so I can read it. It's fine.
Yeah.
The whole world had one language with a common vocabulary. As people moved toward the east, they found a plain in Shinar, Babylonia, and settled there. They said to one another, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They used bricks as stones and tar as mortar. Then they said, let's build a city for ourselves and a tower with its top to the sky. Let's make a name for ourselves that we won't become scattered all over the face of the earth. So they had been given a commandment to scatter, and they're like, nope, we don't want to do that. Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower that the descendants of Adam were building. Yahweh said, they are one people with one language. This is only the beginning of what they will do. Now nothing they plan to do will be too difficult for them. Let us go down there and mix up their language so that they won't understand each other. So Yahweh scattered them all over the face of the earth, and they stopped building the city. This is why it's named Babel, because there Yahweh turned the language of the whole earth into Babel. From that place, Yahweh scattered them all over the face of the earth.
Then as it goes on, it says where they go to, and if we want to take the time to look that up, it's pretty interesting.
It is, because, here they're just getting off the ark, and you read the story, but when you read the details of it, it's like there's thousands of people already. So there's got to be a chunk of time that we're not aware of, because you're just reading these chapters, just keep going with the story, and you miss out that there's a lot of time here between the ark. And yes, these families have grown, and then all of a sudden you have these hundreds of thousands of people. So I thought that was really interesting.
One of the main characters, if it's a story that's playing out like a movie, you're going to see a main character, Nimrod, who appears in these scriptures. And then this dude, Nimrod, not a good dude. We're going to start here at the Tower of Babel, but the next video we're going to go back to Noah's Ark, because there's so much information there. So people are asking right now, how old the earth is, how long have people been alive? And the mainstream archaeology has said only 6,000 years. That's not true. It's literally not true. So
it doesn't fit.
And Christianity will say, well, God says in the Word, a year is like a thousand years like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years. That's an explanation. That's not an exaggeration. It's an example. It's not a statement of that's a fact. He's saying, dude, I'm eternal, man. I don't get the sun rising and set. It doesn't set or rise on me. I make it set or rise. So it doesn't. There's no time.
Yes, and when you look at these archaeological records, we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, and it's so interesting that things kind of reset regularly. And here we have that term in the news lately. Oh, there's going to be a great reset again. Of course we are.
All right, so when we do this we're going to connect some dots, and I think there's a nefarious purpose and person behind all of this. So, and them discovering a city. So let's bring up we'll bring up Jubilee's next. Tower of Babel start.
19. For they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar, for in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, Go to, let us rise up thereby into heaven. They began to build, and in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the brick served them for stone. And the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt, which comes out of the sea, and out of the fountains of water in the land of Shinar. They built it 43 years, were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height mounted to 5,433 cubits and 2 palms, and the extent of one wall was 13 times 600 feet, and the other 30 times 600 feet. Do that math. And Yah, our Elohim, said to us, Look, they are one people, and they began to do this, and now nothing will be withheld from them. Let us go down and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. And they may be dispersed into cities and nations, and they will not be in agreement together with one purpose until the day of judgment. And Yah descended, and we descended with him, to see the city and the tower that the children of men had built.
Can I interrupt that real quickly?
Yeah,
So
go for it.
who is we? If we remember correctly,
Yeah.
this is the angel of the presence.
There you go.
Is dictating to him, and he's writing this down. So
Yeah. He confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech, and then ceased to build the city and the tower. For this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because Yah confounded all the language of the children of men there. And from that place they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. Then Yah sent a mighty wind against the tower, and it fell to the earth. And behold, it was between Ashur and Babylon in the land of Shinar, and they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week, in the 1st year, in the beginning of it, in the 4th and 30th Jubilee, they were dispersed from the land of Shinar. So right there it tells you, so they're in the 34th Jubilee. So you have some time reference at least.
yeah. So the first book we looked at was Genesis, which is the only book that the Christian Church authorizes its followers to read. And there's like almost no information, just a brief mention of this thing.
Yeah,
with
this
these
sort of
people.
happened.
Now
No
we've
details.
got dimensions, we've got times, we've got things. So then let's go to the book of Jasher.
So there's a lot of details in this
Mhm.
that I was surprised about. Okay, yep, building the tower, I see that. And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. So here we even have who's reigning.
Mhm.
And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Phut, Mitzrayim, Cush, and Canaan, with their families. And they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars.
Can I interrupt this real quick?
Yeah.
So who is they? Like
right?
who's he talking about?
We don't
and
have
this
that
is
part.
But this is kind of why we have to go back to Noah eventually, and Noah getting off the ark, and then Noah and his sons dispersing from there, and what happens with the earth to repopulate the earth was the statement. So, and Nimrod is the son of one of these guys. So, and if you know the history of the sons of Noah, they don't get along very well.
They really don't.
Mhm.
And neither did they go and disperse. So they didn't follow the instructions almost right away.
This book is so interesting. Jasher is really a trip, man.
Well, I think when you read accounts, like we have this story of Babel. So you start in Genesis, we've done Jubilees. Here we have Jasher. Like you gain more details as you go along. And I think it's worth searching scripture and even these, they're so-called extra books, but you get more information. You get all these little details that, you could spend your lifetime studying a simple story and all the archaeology that goes along with it. It's super interesting.
Okay, we'll read this and then we'll just bring up what's the point? Why are we even doing this? So
sure.
yeah.
And they all went before the king, so that's Nimrod, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men. And they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And I just want to say, if they imagined it, like who gave them that idea? And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it, and whilst they were building it against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves into 3 parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts, and he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it until those who went up had completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily.
Can you picture that? Just
a whole year. Like what?
Just an assembly line of people walking up this tower. Well, I'll see you in a year. So, do you have like marathons with people in water tables?
Yeah. I don't know. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick would fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would even look at him. And the Lord knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. And then they saw them. They said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from the Lord in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues. And one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner.
Can I stop you right there? So
Yeah.
in the building of the pyramids, right, there is lime
Okay.
included in it. So what is this thing they're building? Is it some supernatural, like we don't even know the purpose of the pyramids, right? We don't know these megalithic sites. We're going to talk about, as we go through this series, we're going to talk about a guy it's got a website called The Land of Chem, and I think he's pretty spot on as to what they know. But I mean, wow, what made them think that they could actually get to heaven and take on a god? Like, why would that even occur to them? Isn't that?
I think those other entities kind of nudged the people.
Spoiler alert. So, all right.
And the Lord smote the 3 divisions that were there. He punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods," became like apes and elephants. And those.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
So in the pantheon of gods across the world, in India right now, you can look this up. And in the Far East, there's a god named Hanuman, which is part ape, part human. It is a giant, and they worship him. His name is Hanuman, spelled like an anagram for human. Okay, and then you have there's an elephant god, and I can't remember his name, but he's part elephant, part human. I'm like, where did these ideas come from? They didn't just spring up in a vacuum, I don't think.
No.
I guess you're left with 2 options. Either what's written here is true and it happened, or it's just allegory. It doesn't matter.
Just an interesting story.
Right?
Yeah.
But this monkey man god is all over the place. Like,
yeah.
Every continent. Like, why is it even mentioned?
It's not that important. It's just that it's in the story, and like, oh, go figure, there would be a god like that worshipped somewhere. Like, it has to begin somewhere.
Right.
Those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Lord killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to heaven and fight against him," the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left among them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel, for there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof. And a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third, and the third that was left to this day. And it is that part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number.
And then, if you remember what Jubilee said, it was blown over by wind.
Yeah.
And this one says it's broken into thirds. So
right. So even if you had the remains of the tower, you're looking at 1/3 of what it used to be, and that third to walk around it is 3 days. Like, what?
How massive is this thing? Yeah. And then Genesis just mentions it was destroyed. It doesn't say
how exactly
anything about the method it was destroyed. It doesn't say. Yeah. Would that be just what you would do, is to, in your ignorance, try to fight a powerful being that just, what made them think they could?
But with hundreds of thousands of people, like, come on, guys, this is the team you're on. We're building this today. And they do that for how long? I mean, that was a huge tower.
Did it say in Jubilees, it said 43 years for them to build it?
Yeah.
I don't know those exact measurements, but that's a long time.
It is. Hundreds of thousands of men building this thing. Like, what?
When I heard Rob Skiba talking about this tower, and he's like, he was thinking it was a portal. And then he was also thinking that it wasn't about the height, but I'm thinking it's about the height too. It's both, But okay, so this is the part that kind of blows my mind. First of all, what made them think they could do it? Second of all, the engineering that you would have to have a tower, you'd have to start with the base, right?
Yes.
And then you would have to decide these bricks so that they don't break once they're put on top of each other. Like what are we looking at here? Like I don't even understand. Like we use
there's some very intricate design and monumental engineering involved for this sort of plan to happen. And we are told to assume that people way back then were just cavemen and they didn't know what they were doing. They're just simple hunter-gatherer type people. No, this is super intricate. They
yeah.
have a city built to do metallurgy, whatever it is. But all of that is showing us that they had some, knowledge that we don't have today. These constructions, we cannot replicate them today. These massive stones, as well and precise as they are cut and put together, is incredible.
There's a site over in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, but they found and they were able to date. And I've heard people argue against radiocarbon dating.
Sure.
Okay, whatever. I can't prove it one way or the other. I'm not a scientist, nor I don't think they are either. But if they can date that thing back to 12,000 years, and we'll get into this thing called the Younger Dryas, the Older Dryas, and what all that stuff means, and what they're doing. All of a sudden, in 2025,
Yeah.
mainstream people are talking about before the deluge and after the deluge. They're talking about a worldwide flood.
Yeah.
They're openly talking about it, and everybody's starting to agree. Mm-hmm. So I guess we're left with two options. Either you believe what these books say or you just don't. Mm-hmm. And then I've heard people say, well, the Tower of Babel, where is it? Right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, but
you have Google Maps. You can kind of look and see where there's a plain of Shinar.
Yeah, and you would have to figure out a 2-day walk from where did Jubilee say it was from? And then
Mount Ararat.
Yeah, you'd have to figure out the 2-day walk from that. Like
sure.
But
but then people will say that's how many thousands of years because it's a day.
Right, but we don't know, but we would have to say, and they're discovering right now new civilizations and societies everywhere. Yeah. And archaeology has not even studied 10% of this earth. Like they're not even, what's the history of mankind?
Yeah, that's super interesting because they have ancient artifacts even in the oceans and on land. I'm like, where do you even begin? And where are we on the timeline? Like the history is so different than what we've been taught. And there's so many interesting discoveries.
So next time we come back, I'm going to talk about some of these men and women who are finding things all over the world. They've got a loudspeaker now because podcasts are changing everything. And so some of these guys interview these guys are really annoying because they won't shut up and just let them talk. But at the same time, if you want to fall down these rabbit holes, and they are not putting it together, right? This Tower of Babel explains why so many people have the same gods all over the world. It literally just told you, right? And then there's 70 angels, and these 70 angels confuse these languages, right? And then there's 70 nations that come out of the Tower of Babel. Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
Anyway, that's it for now. Spoiler alert. I don't want to give the rest of the things away. It's really hard not to, though. But come back because we're going to stick with this for a while because I think that they're going. There's a means to an end here. Like, why all of a sudden is this happening? Remember when Daniels was told, men will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase greatly. What was he talking about? And I think that we're starting to figure out what the pyramids were used for. We're starting to figure out who all these people are, and then these books that were written so long ago.
But
Somebody
the
wrote it
sad
down.
thing is we've forgotten.
Right.
Like it's been forgotten and hidden, and now just all of a sudden it's gonna be like, oh, but have you read Jubilees? Because this is pretty interesting.
Have you read Enoch? Well, your
Yeah.
pastor's going to tell you not to read these books. And an Ethiopian pastor will tell you, of course, read this book because it's there.
Yes, but how encouraging to know it is in a book and it's not really new. It's already been like it is from the creator of all things, that actual supreme God, instead of, I mean, you can fall down these rabbit holes and start believing in something else if you chose to, but when it circles back to the creator of all things, I think that's exciting.
And for those of us that are sharing our calendar, happy Passover coming up and
Yeah.
Day of Unleavened Bread. And
Yes.
we're getting ready for that. So
Yes.
shalom. And we'll record the next video after this. We're going to go back to Noah's Day and see. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about all three books. We're going to bring in Enoch too, because Enoch says some stuff that's just